What's up guys, my name is Jedith. Devourer has been available on the Midnight Alpha for about a week now, and I've been having a lot of fun just hanging out at the target dummies and answering all of your questions. Although it seems like everyone has the same questions. So today I'm going to answer the 5 most asked questions about Devourer that I've been seeing. And I know this won't really stop the questions from coming, but at least I'll have a video I can refer to. So I'm going to answer the 5 most common questions that I get, and I'm even going to add a bonus one at the very end, so make sure you watch all the way. Now, before we jump in, I have to ask you something. Do you ever find yourself feeling mentally drained halfway through the day, sluggish, and just overall depleted? I have something to show you that might be a game changer for you. MH1 is a premium brain and focus formula designed to support clarity, concentration, and overall feeling energized throughout your day. This is nothing like the brown bean juice we all guzzle down every day to try to stay alert. MH1 is a proprietary blend of thoughtfully chosen ingredients that supports a sense of calm without drowsiness, supports mental focus and alertness, and helps reduce feelings of stress. Now, believe me when I say it, this product doesn't just claim to be premium, it looks and feels it. The focus is on getting the right ingredients, not the flashiest looking bottle. Now, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA, TGA, or EFSA. MH1 is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition. It is a dietary supplement formulated to support focus, everyday energy, and general well-being. Results may vary between individuals, but personally, it's made a real difference for me. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 25% off your first order and free shipping on your first month for US customers. Again, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 25% off your first order and free shipping on your first month for US customers. All right, let's get into the video. Okay, so the number one top question that I get all the time is, what is Devourer's mastery? It's pretty simple. All cosmic damage dealt is increased by 7%, and then, while in Void Metamorphosis, this bonus is increased by an additional 11. So both of these numbers will scale depending on how much mastery you have. The part that's currently saying it's increasing by an additional 11, that value is to take the first number and multiply it by 2.5. So the mastery is pretty good. It's just increasing all of our cosmic damage, which is essentially all of our abilities. Void Blade does cosmic damage, Reap does cosmic damage, the Hunt does cosmic damage, Consume does cosmic damage, Void Ray obviously does cosmic damage, and of course Collapsing Star does cosmic damage. The only thing that doesn't do cosmic damage is Soul Immolation, and that's probably for the best. We don't want to be buffing that because that actually hurts us. Soul Immolation is fire damage. But it doesn't stop there because there's also a talent in our class tree called Pursuit, which allows our mastery to increase our movement speed. Now, I don't know if we'll be keeping this talent because, as you can see, the class tree is very much a work in progress. There's about 10 nodes that are not yet implemented, so I fully expect this tree to get a complete rework, complete overhaul. There might be things coming out of here, new things coming in. I don't know what we're keeping, what we're not keeping. This may not be here in the future, but as it stands, our mastery is also giving us movement speed. So yeah, our mastery is pretty impactful. It's increasing our cosmic damage. Our big damaging ability, which is Collapsing Star, is of course cosmic damage, and we're taking all of these bonus modifiers for Collapsing Star down the middle, as well as our Apex talents, which also increase our cosmic damage. This talent here brings our cosmic damage up by an additional 6% when you put 2 points into it. So there's a lot of things amplifying our cosmic damage and making our Collapsing Stars do a lot of damage. Okay, question number 2. Is Devourer squishy? The answer to this is a little complicated, so yes and no. In its current state, Devourer does feel a little squishy, but that's going to improve over time. As it stands, we're not getting the bonus leech from Soul Rending, so we're getting the base 10%, but we're supposed to get an extra 10% leech when we go into Metamorphosis. But of course, because this is a work in progress, I don't think this talent is hooked up to work with Void Metamorphosis. It's only hooked up to work with regular Metamorphosis. So we're missing out on 10% leech there. Defensively, we do have Blur, but we aren't getting a lot of the Blur modifying talents that Havoc has. So we just get baseline Blur, which reduces all damage taken by 25% for 10 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown. We also don't get any extra healing from our soul fragments when we consume them. This is something that Havoc and Vengeance both get. Whenever they consume their soul fragments, they get a little bit of healing. But unfortunately with Devourer, that is not the case currently. I think if that were to happen, if it were to be implemented, it would have to heal us by a much smaller amount than what Havoc and Vengeance gets from theirs, because Devourer generates way more soul fragments than both of those specs. The only other thing we have to work with is this talent here called Sunder. So devour the life from your target to make yourself whole again, dealing cosmic damage equal to 25% of your missing health and healing you 50% of your missing health. This is on a 1-minute cooldown, and you do have to talent into it, so it kind of feels bad to take this talent. Unless you're doing world content, then it kind of makes sense to take it. But in Mythic Plus and Raid, it's going to feel really bad to have to waste a point on this. Even though it does do a little bit of damage, I feel like that could be increased to make a compromise of putting a point into a defensive talent and giving up offensive would feel a little bit less uneven. Now, again, with all that being said, like I said in the first point, our class tree is missing a lot of talent points here. Our class tree is missing 10 points, and of course, the capstones are completely empty at the moment. Those could be really, really crucial to this spec surviving and just being a lot less squishy and potentially even tanky. That's typically how these class trees are laid out. They're more for defensive and utility things, whereas the spec tree is damage throughput. Now, I think another part of the problem, and I'll admit this is a very small part of the problem, but a lot of people playing Devourer right now are coming from playing Havoc or even any other melee class, and they're not used to maybe some of the precautions that you have to take when you're playing a caster. It becomes super important to kite enemies when you're playing a caster because you just can't take those hits. And luckily, Devourer does have a lot of great mobility to help facilitate kiting. We have Shift. That's a quick teleport like that. We have Vengeful Retreat. We have Void Blade if you want to do like a quick leap to a different target. So we have a lot of things that can help us kite and get around a lot easier. And I think we're set up to be able to kite in a way that is actually going to be a lot of fun because we can also slow enemies with our Throw Glaive if we take the talent for it. So yeah, I think part of the problem too is people just not being fully used to the squishiness of a caster and sort of the regular problems that a caster has to deal with compared to the insane survivability that Havoc has had for such a long time, where they are essentially immortal gods in world content. They have infinite leech, healing from their soul fragments. They have healing from I-Beam and Feldev. It's just a little different on this spec. Okay, question number 3. Is Devourer an intellect spec? The answer is yes, but it's nothing you have to be alarmed about. All of our gear in any slot is typically going to change primary stat based on what your spec uses. So you can see on the tooltips here, it says I have 18 intellect on this headpiece, but if you look underneath the green text, there's text in gray that says plus 18 agility. That means it's an inactive stat, but if I were to switch to Havoc, which uses agility, it would deactivate the intellect and activate the agility. So you get whatever you need in that spec. Typically weapons do that as well. You can see on this item, it has inactive agility and it has 2 instances of intellect. I think that might just be an alpha thing, but if I were to switch to Havoc right now, the agility and the intellect would just switch spots, and I would get whatever stat I need. Now, when it comes to rings and your neck, those don't have primary stat on them, so you never have to worry about that. Jewelry only ever has stamina and secondary stats. So you may still have to swap out these items based on the secondary stats, but primary stat is never anything you're going to have to worry about for those slots. And the final thing you might be concerned about is trinkets. A trend that I've been seeing so far on the alpha looking at trinkets is that a lot of them have all 3 primary stats on them. As you can see, this one has 24 intellect, 24 agility, and 24 strength. So no matter what spec I was playing, no matter what primary stat I needed, it would just give me the one that I need. And of course, the proc on this is a bit more generic, so it would apply to any different type of role. This trinket is the same thing. This is actually from a dungeon. This is from Windrunner Spire from the final boss, and it does the same thing. It has intellect, agility, and strength, and will change depending on what I need. So yeah, while Devourer is an intellect class, that doesn't mean you're going to have to get an entirely new gear set if you want to swap between Devourer and Havoc. That's not going to be the way it works. There might be 1 or 2 pieces that you want to swap out based on secondary stats, or maybe there's a trinket, but you're not going to have entire gear sets that you switch between different specs. That's just not how it's going to work. All right, next question. Does Devourer have to run around to pick up souls? Now, I see this question a lot, and it's a common misunderstanding about this spec. The spec does function off of building these soul fragments and collecting them to get enough to go into void meta and then using your collapsing star. That much is true. And yes, you can run over them to pick them up. You can absolutely do that, but Blizzard has thought of everything, and they've given us an ability that collects all of these soul fragments automatically. So if I spawn a few here. I have this ability, Reap. So Reap gathers up to 4 nearby souls. If I press it, sucks them all up, and then I didn't have to run around. I didn't have to track them down and run all over the place. I just pressed my one button that I have 2 charges of, and it picks up to 4 nearby souls. If we take this talent, Eradicate, so now after I've fully channeled Void Ray, my Reap turned into Eradicate because I've talented into it, and Eradicate has the capability to scoop up to 10 soul fragments. So between Reap and Eradicate and the other version inside of Void meta, which is called Cull, this ability alone does a great job at picking up soul fragments. Now, another way that we can pick up soul fragments is to just generate so many that they kind of get collected for us. So you can only have up to 11 on the floor at a time. As soon as you proc more beyond 11, they'll get collected into you to make room for the new ones that you're spawning. So you can auto-consume these orbs on the ground just by generating more over the cap and having them get sucked into you automatically. And then if you wanted to, you could do a beefy Eradicate and suck them all up. And now run over that one if I wanted to. But TLDR, no, you don't have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off. You can just stand still, use your ability Reap or Cull or Eradicate to scoop them up, or let them get autoed by overcapping souls on the floor. Now, question number 5, what is the range of Devourer? Most of Devourer's abilities are a 25-yard range. If we look at Reap, that's 25 yards. Consume is 25 yards. Now, a few of the other abilities are 35 yards. Void Ray is 25 yards. The Hunt, 50 yards. But ultimately, we have a lot of range on all of our abilities. We have this talent in the class tree called Guile. The cast range of Void Blade, Consume Magic, and Disrupt are increased by 20 yards. So Disrupt is our interrupt, so that makes it a 30-yard range, 15-second cooldown, which is fantastic because we don't have to be going into melee to interrupt. The range on Void Blade is actually pretty large, so I'll see how far back I can get here. That seems to be the limit, so I can press Void Blade. It takes me all the way in. Then I can Vengeful Retreat back out. I can Hunt back in. Hungering Slash. Vengeful Retreat out. Then all of our other abilities have 25 yards. Void Ray has 25 yards. And 25 yards is larger than you may think. So that's about the limit right there. That's 25 yards from here to that target dummy in the middle. Even our AoE stun Void Nova, which does function different than Chaos Nova if you're used to it from Havoc, Void Nova is a targeted AoE stun. So unleash an eruption of void energy, dealing 164 cosmic damage and stunning your target and all nearby enemies for 2 seconds. The range on that is 30 yards, which is fantastic. So we have more than enough range to do whatever we need to do. If we want to stay out at range, we don't have to be kind of mid-range like people might assume. Like this is kind of, I think, what people think of when we say mid-range. This is way closer than you need to be. You could be all the way out here if you needed, and you're vibing out here. And then let's say you're in Mythic Plus, and this pack that you're fighting, there's a big mechanic that's going to happen that you want to drop Darkness for your group. You can use Void Blade to go into melee, drop Darkness, and then zip right back out. So those are our 5 questions. Now I want to add in a bonus question that I get. It's actually 2 questions. Is Devourer easy, and is Devourer fun to play? The answer is yes to both. Devourer is probably one of the simplest classes that they've designed in a very long time, and I think that is to its benefit. Their goal with this spec is to be simple, is to be accessible, and to be fun. This is an expansion selling feature, and they want as many people to play this spec as humanly possible. They want casuals to try it out, hardcore players to try it out, and all of those people need to be satisfied with how it feels. And I think this spec has a lot to offer to make all those different types of players happy. Rotationally, it's super simple, but the abilities feel great to press. Everything feels impactful. It's fun to go into melee and do your little melee combo and Vengeful Retreat out. I think that's going to scratch the itch of a lot of the Havoc players who like to do the whole movement for damage type of thing. We have Void Ray, which is kind of just a plant and blast type of thing. If you're coming from a caster background, we have caster elements here where you're standing and casting Devour and casting big impactful nuke abilities like Collapsing Star. And the visuals on this are just great. I think visually, this is the flashiest, coolest looking spec to ever be in the game. And I think Devourer is kind of like the perfect example of what they want to bring some of the other classes and specs in the game more towards, where you're not having to track a million different things. There is a very high skill ceiling for the people that want to do things like keep track of your souls, you know, min-maxing and getting really sweaty to make sure you're staying in Void meta as long as possible and getting as many Collapsing Stars as possible. But It's also very accessible for the average player who just presses the buttons as they light up, and even while doing that, you're still going to do pretty acceptable and sometimes even impressive damage. So if you're interested in learning more about Devourer, you want to learn the rotation, you want to learn how to play it, because maybe you're thinking this might be your new main in Midnight, I would suggest going to my YouTube channel, and there's a bunch of videos there that go over all the talents, the rotation. You can even scroll down, you'll probably see some related videos in a playlist next to the comments. Click on some of those and I'm sure you'll find your way. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Devourer and Havoc content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.